Thank you to our sponsor, MBA Growth Partners.
Welcome to Studio 501c3. I'm your host, Kim Jones, CEO of the Nonprofit Village, a capacity builder and shared space for nonprofits. Our show features nonprofit organizations that provide critical and essential programs and services. They're charities the IRS designates as 501c3 because they provide a public benefit. Often your donations to these nonprofits are tax deductible. We're also a proud partner of Montgomery Community Media, and MCM is your public resource that provides access to a variety of information and programs relevant to our community. Today, we're talking with Kate Medina, the founder and executive director of the Charles Koiner Conservancy, or CKC, farming. The organization is a land trust dedicated to protecting and managing urban farms. Kate, thanks for being with us in the studio today.
Hey, Kim. Thank you very much for having me today.
Great. So let's get started on how this all emerged. So CKC really emerged out of the Koiner farm in Silver Spring that Mr. Koiner operated for
almost 40 years.
Yeah, I think it was 40 years. So tell us about the relationship you built with him before his passing that protects the farm, upholds the legacy in the neighborhood, and what happens there.
You bet. Yeah. Well, I should say that I'm a co-founder of the Charles Koiner Conservancy. My colleague, Hannah Shoulder, she really knew Charlie Koiner best. And she learned from him for a number of years, sort of shadowing and taking in sort of a lifetime of knowledge that Charlie had acquired. He was almost 100 years old. He was 98 when he passed away. And he had been farming his whole life, grew up on a farm, the original Koiner farm, which is now Pike and Rose along 355 there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And in the 70s, after he retired from Timberlawn Farm, he got the little plot of land, just one parcel, right? So it was just 1/5 of an acre that he originally acquired back in the 70s. But he took notice of the adjacent parcels, and over the years, he bought them up until he had a full contiguous acre, and he just wanted to farm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I got involved in 2017 when Charlie's daughter, Lynn Koiner, went to the county council. And Tom Hucker was really instrumental. Councilmember Tom Hucker was really instrumental in getting the urban ag tax credit bill passed, which helped the Koiners hold on to Koiner Farm.
So what was the issue with holding on to the farm? Was it the steep taxes that were being imposed, or was it something else in terms of trying to keep that farmland intact there? Great
question. So the Koiners owned 5 parcels and were paying full residential property taxes on all 5 parcels. And it got to the point that they couldn't afford that. So the tax credit enabled them that it says, if you're growing $5,000 worth of produce or more, then you are eligible to receive a credit good up for 10 years on your property taxes.
Okay.
So that really helped Charlie and Lynn, but it did nothing to ensure that the farm was protected beyond the Koiners, right? Okay. I mean, Lynn herself, I think she's in her late 70s now, mid 70s. And
was that when you started to look at putting the conservancy together?
Yep. And that was it was her vision. And when she spoke to Lynn Koiner about this, Lynn fell in love with the idea.
Okay.
And I just give so much credit to Lynn for really believing in this. And it was sort of not a battle, but it was a challenge for us to figure out how to preserve this land. We first went to the Maryland Environmental Trust, but just 1 acre in downtown Silver Spring, that's too small for the state-run land trust to steward. So at that time we decided, okay, we will form our own land trust. That's how it came about.
So that's how it came about. So what happens with the management? What happens kind of day to day? And then how is the community involved in supporting the farm?
Great question. So every day I marvel at the fact that Charlie Koiner was able to manage this full acre well into his 90s, because we have a team of 30 people.
Wow.
Some working the farm as volunteers, Some are interns who are learning from these experienced volunteers who know, many of whom are master gardeners or have been gardening for a long time. We also have a staff of 5, all part-time. And then we have a board, a wonderful board.
And you have to manage all of that. So you may, it's great. Sometimes people hear, oh, volunteers, interns, but it still has to be managed. And
it's an amazing collaboration of people. And yes, there's orchestrating of who's watering, when are we planting. I've learned so much, the cycle of the farm. At every row, it's continually, okay, this gets harvest on this date, and then we replant here, and this one gets harvest. To see the movement on the farm, it's constantly changing. And since it's protected, it's open to the public to come and see. And the fact that it is ever changing, evergreen, we could say that, right? It is ever changing. Come and see.
I want to ask another question, because we're going to go to break in just a few seconds. But so this is an urban farm, and it's a really key part of the whole ecosystem that exists to maintain our local food system.
Right.
So what's the role that this farm plays with the Food Council and other neighborhood farms to make sure that we've got this sustainable food system?
Yeah, so that's a big question. I know we only have a few minutes till break, but we see Koiner Farm as a model for how a micro food system could work. This closed loop food system existing within one neighborhood, right? And the customers, they walk up to the farm or bike over to the farm. There's the compost that we accept. We have an awesome compost hub, and we accept compost on farm. So we really do figure out a way to close that food loop right there in our neighborhood. We accept coffee grounds from Kefa Cafe, which is right down the street, and have partnerships with other organizations such as Shepherd's Table. Whatever we don't sell, actually it's half of what we grow goes to Shepherd's Table.
Okay. Which is also in Silver Spring. So.
Oh yeah, that's less than a half mile away from us.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to break here so that we can just briefly go to commercial. And when we come back, we can talk a little bit more about that. We can pick up on that and learn a little bit more about the whole farm management and the education programs that you also have over there. All right. Studio 501c3 on Montgomery Community Media. We'll be right back.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back to Studio 501c3, your window into exceptional nonprofit programs in Montgomery County. I'm talking with Kate Medina, the Executive Director of CKC Farming. So before the break, we were talking about the whole food ecosystem and how you've got partnerships with other organizations in the community. Does this expand beyond the Silver Spring area?
Great question. So as a land trust, our vision is actually to protect properties beyond just Koiner Farm. Koiner Farm will always be our flagship farm, and where we, where CKC hosts a lot of our education programs, but there are other urban gardens and urban farms that are popping up around Montgomery County. Right. And we hope to support this urban farming movement with technical assistance, with land stewardship and land preservation, if that's the direction that the landowners want to go.
So what does land stewardship really look like? What is that strategically doing in terms of making sure that you are preserving these other urban farms?
So that means that we're responsible for ensuring that that land is used for its intended use.
Okay.
And if the intended use is agriculture or education or both, in the case of Koiner Farm, then we are responsible for ensuring that. Now, I mean, we've all seen, maybe some urban gardens that have gotten overgrown and are not a true asset, bringing the maximum benefit to that community that land could bring. And so for CKC, that is our mission, to ensure that land that is being set aside for urban farming or urban gardening, that we are maximizing the benefit of that land to the community. So that's really what stewardship means to us.
So, and does that process involve some form of, what's the word that I'm thinking of? I guess investigation into what the original intent was, as well as what else is going on in the surrounding community? Is it almost like a study?
Yes, so we do have a conservation plan in which we've identified several criteria that will help our stewardship committee do their job. Some of those include, what is the food security or food insecurity criteria of that area? How accessible is the property to public transportation or walkability? Also includes like line of sight too. Okay. How close is it to a school? Is there the opportunity to have children come and engage with the land and connect with the land and their food and their neighbors in a more meaningful way than maybe, passive use? Okay.
So we're running out of time, but I've got a couple of things that I want you to touch on. You offer field trips, you have educators, you have volunteers, interns. When people go to the website, which we're going to put up, and I'll mention in just a second, are there other things that you want people to know about?
Well, one of the things I sort of touched on, but maybe didn't get to finish, and that is that Koiner Farm and other urban farms and urban gardens, they are a wonderful opportunity to just come and explore on your own time, sort of that independent, self-directed learning that the kids are so good at. They can my son today was just sitting there picking up rocks and investigating the ants underneath of these rocks. And so having the opportunity to take the time to do that in a place where it can happen is incredible.
That's great. And then what about your vision? You and Hannah, what's your vision for the future? What else is to come?
Our vision for the future is to preserve a network of urban farms here in Montgomery County that exists for generations, so that, generation after generation will understand where their food comes from, what it takes to grow it, connect with the land, and connect with each other.
Wow. All right. So I hope people take a visit out. We're going to put up your information. I'm sorry to say we're out of time, but I hope that the audience has learned a lot more about the Charles Koiner Conservancy for Urban Farming and the many ways that people can take advantage of the work that you're doing. It's tremendous work, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kim.
Kate, thanks for being here, sharing all this information with the audience. I'd like to invite you back sometime soon to talk a little bit more. For more information on CKC, visit their website at ckcfarming.org. I'm Kim Jones. Thanks for joining us, and come back for another edition of Studio 501c3 on Montgomery Community Media.